This 23-year-old woman went from a strong single mother to a destructive monster who not only abandoned her two toddlers in her apartment for 50 days but methodically created an atmosphere where it would be impossible for the children to survive. Why did she decide to end her children's lives? And why didn't anyone around her or in the building where she lived do anything? Sanae Shimamura, born in 1987, was the eldest of three girls in Mie Prefecture, Japan. Her father, a famous high school teacher and a coach for the rugby team, he ended up marrying a former student. But despite having three children with him, she was known for her active social life and casual affairs. Sanae's parents divorced and her father remarried, taking custody of his three daughters. Sanae's stepmother cared for the girls while their father worked. Sanae claimed their stepmother neglected them and she had to care for her younger sisters. Sanae's nursery school teacher told police, "When she was young, she was a good girl who took care of her sisters. However, there are limits to what a child can do. I visited her home when she was still in elementary school, but things were scattered around the entrance and the room, and it was very cluttered. After seeing the news of the incident, the interior and veranda of the apartment where the children were, I was reminded of that visit." While Sanae was an honor student and quite bright in elementary school, in junior high school she started hanging out with the rougher kids and was often involved in mischief and misconduct at school. Sanae also ran away from home a few times and also told police that in junior high school she was involved in gang and she was a victim. After junior high school, thanks to her father and his reputation, he was able to secure a private high school where he sent Sanae off to live with a colleague of his. After becoming pregnant in 2006, she got married and moved in with her husband and his parents. With her first child, Sakuraku, in 2007, and then the birth of her second child, Kaide, in 2008, Sanae was living a normal life with her husband and his parents, who were also helping raise the two children. She wrote, "Sakuraku and Kaidi are living leisurely. Things seemed to finally be going well until 2008, a little after Kaidi was born." In 2008, Sanae got in touch with some of her old friends and started leaving her children at home with the grandparents and going out at night. While slowly distancing herself from her husband, kids, and in-laws, she started going out a lot and also incurring a large amount of debt. She also started having an affair which her husband found out about. During these evening outings, she would leave both her children home, alone with just tap water. She needed to find a way to make money to support herself and two children. In January 2010, Sanae accepted a job at a delivery health institution in Osaka. Men call the delivery health service to receive a woman who is basically allowed to do anything with a man for a price except some stuff. Sanae was given a small apartment by the owner of the delivery health where she could reside with her two children. Along with this delivery health job, Sanae started visiting host clubs where she could flirt and talk to good-looking young men. At age 23, working at brothels, visiting multiple host clubs, and having relations with men from the clubs, she started spending more and more time away from her children. According to Amiblo, a Japanese blog site, Sanae would buy bento boxes or cup ramen from a convenience store and leave home for hours. According to a clerk at the nearby pizza shop, Sanae often ordered the pizza, some chicken nuggets, and an orange juice that would be delivered to her apartment. A witness also saw Sanae in March at a nearby park on her cell phone. As early as March 30, 2010, there was a series of complaints from neighbors that children were crying for a long time in the apartment or crying on the intercom, calling for their mom in the middle of the night. She also visited her sister and parents in her hometown without the children and told them they were staying at a friend's house. The Osaka Children's Counseling Center visited the apartment, but no one answered the door. According to SI News, despite the complaints from the residents, because the center could not confirm the identity of the apartment owner or residents, couldn't know for sure if the children were in the apartment, and didn't hear any noises when they went for visits, they couldn't do anything. On June 9, 2010, Sanae decided to leave her children. She used adhesive tape on the inner door to trap the kids in the living room. They didn't have access to the bathroom and could not get to the front door. She locked the door and moved to her friend's home. At the end of June, she told one of her colleagues at the delivery health shop that she left her kids alone so they might be dead. The colleague told police that Sanae said she didn't feel like feeding them or giving them a bath. I started to think that I shouldn't have children. I know that small kids can't survive without giving them food or water. She also said, I wish I had no children. Then, on July 29, 2010, 50 days later, after first leaving her children alone, she went back to the apartment to check on the children. When her colleague said he smelled an unusual odor at her home, Sanae found her kids both naked, lying in the middle of the living room in each other's arms, and decomposing. Medical reports would show that they had died about a month before they were found. She left the apartment, went to a host club, and then had a relation with one of the men she was seeing. That night, she stayed at a love hotel with the men and sent an update on social media with the word fun. She also emailed her colleague and told them her children were dead. The colleague then called the police. Police rushed to the apartment and found the garbage-filled apartment with bodies of Sakuraku and Kaide. Police quickly located Sanae and arrested her for abandonment of a corpse, then later re-arrested her for the murder of her 2 children. The cause of death was reported as dehydration and starvation. However, the gruesome details of the 20 days or so that the children were alive were gruesomely described by medical experts. Because the door was blocked with tape, the kids could not go to the toilet. There was excrement found all over the apartment, the children themselves, and they had even eaten their own excrement out of desperation. The children couldn't use the air conditioner, so they shed their clothes to stay cool and licked the frost from the refrigerator to get water. They also had no food in the fridge, so licked the seasoning and condiments that they found. It was also reported that Sanae had never taken out the garbage since she moved in, so piles of trash were left both on the veranda and inside the living room. The children had been fighting old scraps of food and cup ramen to survive. In an autopsy, medical examiners noted there was no food left in the stomach, intestines, meaning they had not eaten for days before dying. After her arrest, Sanae told the police that she was having so much fun with hostmen that childcare became troublesome. Sanae underwent psychological tests for about 5 months to see if she was mentally fit to be criminally liable. She was deemed competent to face trial, and her trial began in 2012. Sanae denied the murder charge and said she had no intention of killing her children and was only guilty of abandoning them. Prosecutors pointed out that she left no food in the fridge, blocked the exit with tape, and made it impossible for the children to survive for such a long period. Her abandonment was charged with murderous intent when the kids could not access the bathroom, exit, or leave the living room. The defense argued that the defendant was also affected by the abandonment of childcare. When she was a child, they claimed she loved her children and was only guilty of abandoning them because she suffered from a dissociative disorder and had been abused as a child. They wanted her to be tried for child abandonment rather than murder. On March 16, 2012, the Osaka District Court found Sanae guilty of murder and sentenced her to 30 years in prison. She avoided the death penalty because the court took into consideration her past trauma. In the appeal, in December 2012, the Osaka High Court upheld the decision, and in 2013, The Supreme Court also upheld the decision finalizing Sanae's 30-year sentence. Was justice served? A 23-year-old woman with past trauma and little support from people around her ended up leaving her two children alone in garbage-filled apartment to die. Two children who weren't even old enough to start school had their lives cut short. Their last 2 weeks or so of life were filled with hunger, dehydration, loneliness, fear, and empty cries for their mother, who would only return after they had died. The Osaka City Children's Counseling Center made attempts to visit and contact the inhabitants of the apartment but failed. Could they have contacted police or other agencies that could have helped figure out who was in the apartment and how to connect with them? Was it Sanae's ex-husband and his parents who stopped contact and support to Sanae despite her taking responsibility for the children? With no child support or supervision, they left a 23-year-old woman, single mother, who can barely take care of herself with the responsibility of providing for her and two small children. Was it Sanae's parent who also played a role in the possible abuse and trauma that Sanae and her defense team claimed led her to give up on her children? Ultimately, it is Sanae who decided that spending money on drinking with hosts and having intimate encounters was more important than the safety and well-being of her children. Was it a mental illness like dissociative disorder that created an escape into a fantasy world where she was single and free, or was it her life experience that taught her to run away from her problems like she did when she was young? That's it for today. Thanks for watching.